feel free to put a question in the chat, and Paul will help you. With that, the
Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Ann. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
Well, I am staying out of the cold and wetness of outside, so I'm doing quite fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I did go for a long walk this afternoon, but I had all my winter clothes on, honestly.
Yeah, I think we'll be keeping the winter clothes on off and on. Don't pack them away yet, because
No, I got my warm sweater. Trying to put in an earring and I can't seem to get that.
See, but I'm not going out. I'll even have any on today.
Neither did I, but I said, well, let's see. I'm going to be on Zoom. Good chance to wear the big flashy earrings, but
Gotcha.
Have you been busy today?
Yeah, you know the Zoom thing, right? That's why I fall out of bed doing Zoom and I'll go to bed doing Zoom, right?
See, I am really spoiled because I am not doing that anymore. Yesterday morning we had our CWTA, the Community Safety and Accountability meeting at 8:30 in the morning, and I was like, we were done around 10, and I was like, I'm so exhausted.
Yeah, I had intended to tune into that, but you know, I don't know. Monday mornings are not, they have never been my time of the week, you know.
I know. I was like, oh, first thing, huh?
Yeah, no, Jane likes to have those 8:30 meetings. And, sometimes I could do it depending on what else is going on. But that was the only meeting I had until the afternoon. And so it's like, no.
Take a little break. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I remember, about a week or so ago, I went to her house to pick up some stuff and we sat to have a cup of tea and just get to know each other a little better. So I went over there at 11 and she was like, oh, I've been on 3 hours worth of Zoom calls today already. And I thought, oh, no.
Did you get the banking stuff from her?
I did. So I haven't actually done very much with it, but I got it.
Yes. No, we're trying to get John Kuda, who designed our website, to put another button on for X so that people can choose to donate to the C3 or the C4. So Sherry is in communication with him. So hopefully we'll get that done soon. But in the meantime, it's not a big deal since we're not, I guess the only money we're spending, so to speak, that we don't have, and that is, because, well, actually, I don't think we have changed the notation on the website that it's going to be the C4 that is sponsoring the website. So until we do that, we don't have to pay, I guess. But yeah, we will have to start putting spending some money, which means we need to start populating the treasury.
Right. So I will kind of look at what's there. I think she said there's like $400 and $450 in that account, something like that. Right now.
No, the main thing is to look at the website. So the website, if the website says that the C4 is bringing you this website, the newsletter, then we have to start paying the C3 for Sherry's time.
Okay.
The newsletter together.
Okay.
But until that happens, we're okay.
Okay. All right. So had you had much of a chance to look at this plan and the summary or anything?
Yeah, I did. I focused in, quite frankly, on the transportation section.
Well, that makes sense for your background. Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of looked at the whole thing, but my focus was on transportation. And yeah, I had tended to get a hold of you and Sylvia to see how we're going to do this tonight, right? We said we go through it, but I don't know, maybe you and Sylvia have a plan for
I got a whole set of questions. I don't know if this could show, I got some color coded things to mention.
Okay.
So I read the whole 67-page plan and went through it and looked up a lot of the references and tried to figure some things out. So I did try. I was a little disappointed. Well, because as I was reading it, I said, gosh, this really sounds a lot like the Chicago Department of Public Health. It sounds very similar. There's a lot of language and the kinds of plans that we would do. I was like, who led this? You know, I could really see a lot of the good, you know, looking at racial equity issues, looking at a broader, you know, social determinant kind of issues. I'm like, this looks, so I called over to I reached out to a couple of my former colleagues at public health. I said, well, who worked on this plan? Clearly somebody did. And I couldn't figure it out. They're like, well, I don't know, maybe so-and-so did, maybe so-and-so. And then one person actually said, well, I guess our message has just really gotten into other city departments and I was like, this is too specific. So I still don't know.
Somebody messed up, huh?
I still couldn't find who worked on it. That, well, I'm trying to tell you, you did a good job. Don't be worried. But
Yeah, did you try it? Was Kate McMahon one of those people you checked
yes,
on?
Kate did not have a chance to get back to me. So I also figured it was probably because the public health, the data gathering and analysis stuff is very public healthy. I thought, well, maybe somebody from epidemiology was there. And there is a guy, you know, they were working through this through the fall too. One of the people who I know who did a bunch of the environmental stuff, he in the environmental policy in the policy unit who did environmental work, he left the health department about 8 months ago. So he may have been in on early stuff. And I'm betting one of the epidemiologists sat in on this.
Well, you know, we can ask Tyra Woods. She'll tell us.
Was it who?
Tyra Woods. She's the climate person in the mayor's office. This is her baby. Yeah.
So because like most city plans, could they bother to put the names of staff who work on it on there? You know, we were always kind of like, yeah, give us a break. You know, we did do the work, and it might be good to know. So in the health department, we started to do that. We're like, we're not trying to, you know, you just want to make it easy for the public to figure out who worked on something.
Yeah. No, I'll ask Tyra.
Okay.
Was involved.
Yeah. And I suppose I could get an email at any time saying, oh yeah, I did that.
Yeah. Yeah, well, no, Kate might get back to you and tell you, hey, I did it.
Right. It could totally have been Kate. Yeah, I just didn't hear back from her. Yeah, they're doing a lot of hiring in public health with the COVID money and with the Recovery Act money. There's a lot of staff getting finally.
That's good.
In there.
The city has been understaffed, so it's good.
Yeah. Well, and part of it, of course, is I was talking to people. I was down at the health department yesterday for a little visit. And of course, part of it is that with HR is understaffed too. They've been told they can only post like 10 positions a month. And they have probably 150, 200, 150, almost 200 vacancies. Oh, so 10 a month, they'll take 2 years to get your staff up, you know, along with people retiring and leaving.
Right.
It's always been an issue.
Yeah. I know government, the same thing with the state of Illinois. They're massively understaffed as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. City government.
I did like it. I must have liked it because I stayed so long. It was, you know, it had its pros and cons.
I hear you. Here comes Ellen.
Okay.
So first we reviewed all of the register nominations, cultural reports that were done as part of the Obama Convention Center. And there were two things that were specific.
Hey, Ellen.
Hey. Hi, Ellen.
Hey, Ann.
How's your day been?
Too many meetings for me. I just
Gosh, well, I'll try to make this one fun and exciting.
Ellen, I was complaining about the same thing, too many Zooms.
Does it go from 6 to 7 or 6 to 9?
Oh, no, I don't know where that 9 o'clock came from.
It's like, oh my God.
I
can't do
think
that.
Sherry was just trying to provide us fans. No, no. No, we'll be out of here 7:30 at the latest. Only 7:30 if people just keep asking questions, but
Right.
um,
I'm ready
Yeah.
for dinner at 7.
yeah, no, not 9 o'clock, man. I would be falling over.
Yeah, I have a 3-hour planning Zoom tomorrow, and I'm like, oh, 3 hours. Oh. Ugh.
Right. You have to turn off the video for a while too, just so that you can just like, get it.
Yeah.
I actually have barbells, 5-pound barbells, and
Ooh, good.
so I turn off the Zoom and get up and,
That's a good idea. I like that. Yeah.
No, I have under the desk elliptical, elliptical machine that sits
Oh,
underneath
nice.
the desk. Yeah. And in my other room, I have actually a standing desk. The desk I have here will stand, but it doesn't do it as easily. The one I have in the other room is more hydraulic, so I just push the lever and it comes up and I can stand. But I don't use that one because my nephew, who is a student at U of C, is staying with me, and if I use that, then I'm interfering with him. So I stay here.
I should stand up while we're getting ready.
Yeah, there you go. But you've had a walk, Ann, so you're better off than the rest of us.
Sure, I had a nice walk. Yeah. Hi, Deb.
Hey, Deb.
Yeah, I walked over to look at the progress on the Wells Wentworth connector, which is, part of that potential 78 casino site, which is a little goofy. The early plans for that site was about, thousands of units of new housing. I don't think if you put a casino there, you're going to put a lot of houses there.
Yeah.
So
Maybe.
is the housing part then now a dead deal?
Well, it's not. I mean, that site hasn't been chosen yet either. There's still 3 sites in the offing, but I don't know. I mean, it's a lot of space. And I mean, they could have a casino in a high rise with apartments and condos in it and stuff. I mean, they could have stuff. I would think, I didn't look to see if there's more detailed plans that they've made or presented. But certainly
Well,
everything
the 78 has a advisory committee, so they've been going for a while.
Right. And everything that they've done in the neighborhood, because I live just down the street from there, all the community presentations have been about people living there and, that kind of thing. So who knows?
So there's been no meetings about a casino though.
No, that came out just as a big surprise. Yeah. Hey, Sylvia.
Hey,
Hey,
everybody.
Sylvia.
Good to see you.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Were you talking about a casino? What did
I was just saying that on my cold walk this afternoon, I walked around the kind of up Roosevelt and around Canal and down 18th Street looking at the 78 site, and the Wells Wentworth connector is going in, which is exciting. Someday that'll be open, but there's a potential casino now, and it's just weird to look at that. Yeah.
Well, hi, everybody. We expect
Hey.
a few more people. We're just gonna, and you want to give it, a few minutes?
Yeah, let's give it a little.
Cool. Hi, Ellen, Deb.
I think, Sylvia, we scared people with that announcement 7 to 9. 6 to 9. I got an email from somebody that said, are we really going from 6 to 9? I said, no. And then I never looked at the invite. Then I went and looked at the meeting invite and saw, I said, oh my goodness, it does say 6 to 9.
That's terrible. I thought it was 7:15. And had we known, we could have asked Sherry should we ask her to, I don't know. I guess
It's too late. It's too late now. I didn't
learning
think about that, but I just got this email last night, and then Ellen came on asking the same question. And oh my gosh, I wonder how many people are concerned about the 3-hour meeting or may decide to join us at 8 since we're going at 9.
Yeah.
So-
Well, the reminder that went today says 6 to 7.
Oh, did it? Okay.
Yeah, that came this afternoon.
See, I
Perfect.
haven't been reading emails, so you know more than I do, Ann.
Yeah, the kind of fancy looking register emails still say 6 to 7, so.
Okay, all right. That's a good thing.
Yeah,
I think we'll be all right.
Yeah.
getting
Sure.
it together.
Joyce Coffee, how are you?
Well, I'm good now. How are you, Jackie?
I'm wonderful. It's a long time. I haven't seen you, man.
I know. I just put a piece of chocolate in my mouth. I'm so sorry.
Ooh,
Really
chocolate,
right.
good idea.
Now you just have to share the chocolate, that's all.
Mhm.
I would love to be sharing some chocolate with all of you. I can't believe I'm in this room with you guys. Holy cow. Woo!
Yeah. Man, I
Jackie,
was,
how are you? You've been so busy.
I'm wonderful. I was just admitting Judith and I lost my cursor. I hope I didn't lose her. Well, she'll come back. Judith knows how to come back. Joyce, I'm wonderful, you know, just I started off my conversation with Ann telling her I was good because I haven't been out in the cold and rain today. So I feel very fortunate. They what do you say? I was snug as a bug in a rug all day. So I have 4 people waiting and I'm admitting all of them. So a
Good.
bunch of people will be joining right now.
Right. And Sylvia.
I
and
took my
Ann and
walk
Ann.
today. It wasn't too bad.
Yes. So. Oh, Sylvia, that's an inspiration. I have not gotten off my duff. I need to move it right after this meeting.
Well, my trick is to just not really look at the weather and just go. But if there's sun, I will chase that. That is, then I'm really inspired, but otherwise I just get out the door.
Good for
Yeah,
you.
no, I was out yesterday. It was a beautiful sunshiny day. It's a bit chilly, but it was beautiful and I like the sunshine, right?
Yeah.
So all winter long, you know, and even into the spring, I just chase the sun. Where's the sun? Where can I get some sun today?
So Jackie, you can see who's waiting and maybe a minute or so, and then we can kind of do a round robin. I was going to kick us off and pass it over to you,
Perfect.
but I think another minute or so, people can filter in because we've got that manual, got to let folks in thing.
Yeah, now I'll keep an eye on the waiting room. So feel free to go right ahead because here comes somebody right now.
Cool, cool. Not sure if we want to share screens or any of that stuff, Anne, but it is 6:05. We've got 12 hearty souls. Yay. Let's plan to get started. As you may know, this is our opportunity to weigh in on the Mayor's Office of Sustainability's sustainability plan. And they had some hearings and some opportunities for feedback. And what this committee is doing with great support and leadership by my co-chair is offering a summary in case you didn't read the whole thing and helping us to walk through the various pillars and flagging any areas of, for deeper discussion or concern. But we'd like to leave here with the ability to make a recommendation or to make recommendations as CWTA. So we'll take whatever we come up with here to the broader board. And I think we have until April 4th, but pretty quick to get our CWTA advice, recommendations in both as a committee and as a group. So with that being said, I'll pass it on to my co-chair. And do you want to take a quick minute to say hi to people or keep it rolling? I mean, I think it's always nice to say hi. Don't know.
I was gonna say, do people want to, because I know, I don't know everybody who's here. Maybe we could go through and just do it's always a little hard to say, like I can see people in one order, other people might be in a different order. Want to
Tell
just
you
do,
what, I'll go and I'll popcorn to somebody quickly.
Great.
So you go and pass it on to somebody that you've seen. If you've already went, then we'll pick somebody else. I'm Sylvia Ewing, happy to be on the board and the co-chair of the Climate and Environmental Justice Committee. And I'm going to popcorn it to Maura, who I don't know. Hi, Maura.
Hi, my name's Maura Bixby. I'm a biostatistician. I work in environmental health, and I moved to Chicago in August. And this is my first event with you. I found you online because I've been wanting to get more involved with politics and community and women's rights and everything. So I thought your organization looked awesome. So I thought I'd just kind of pop in and kind of listen. I don't know that I'll have a lot to contribute, but I hope it's okay if I just kind of listen and learn. So thanks.
Caroline, and then you popcorn it to someone. Welcome, Maura. You're just what we're looking for. And you're on mute, Caroline.
Yes, Maura, we're so happy to meet you. I hope you have other young friends that you can bring. I'm Caroline Gibbons. I've been on the board probably since the inception of the board, and I'm now on the executive committee. And I'm sitting in on this as well. How about Judith?
Hi, welcome to people I don't know and everyone else. I've with Jackie and Sylvia and Anne sort of thought of this committee, and they know way more than I do, but I just think it's one of the critical issue areas that we can work in. So I'm glad everybody's joining us. Oh, I'm going to pop it to Phyllis.
Hi, I'm Phyllis Smithson, and I'm on the board of Chicago Women Take Action Acts, and I am pleased to be here, and I'm really here to learn. I'm very interested in how older adults can be involved in these issues. So, thank you.
Pop it to somebody, Phyllis.
I don't know who's, raise your hand if you haven't spoken yet. Joyce?
Hi, my name is Joyce Coffey, and I run a firm called Climate Resilience Consulting. We are a social enterprise that runs a racial equity first practice because climate change has very disproportionate impacts on BIPOC Americans. And I have been involved in climate action in Chicago back in the day, but haven't done much work in Chicago for many years. And a friend, Joyce Stewart, suggested that I listen in and contribute to our conversation today. And I will pop it to Ann Zabilski.
hey, so I'm Ann Cebulskis. I've been a member of Chicago Women Take Action for a few years. Moira, kind of like you, I was like, how do I get more involved with some women in Chicago who are doing good things? Oh, look, here's this group. Liked it so much that I have joined the board recently at the behest of Jackie Grimshaw over on my side here, and also I'm co-chairing this committee. I have a background, I'm retired, but I have a background. I've worked for the city for 32 years in public health, where I worked on environmental issues along with many, everything else there, but also housing and policing. So let me send it to, oh, she just put something in her mouth, so I'm not gonna pick Diane. How about Kelly Nichols?
Hi, I'm Nichols. I work with an organization called Respiratory Health Association in the city of Chicago, and Anne actually is very good friends with my boss. I also don't live in Chicago, but I do work there. I live in Highland Park, and I'm on the sustainability advisory group there, and I work on the North Shore on a lot of environmental issues. But my function often in this meeting is not only do I feel like I am also a Chicago woman who tends to take action, but at RHA, we are working on a lot of climate issues, especially as they relate to pollution from vehicles and industrial pollution in environmental justice communities. So I'm here to talk about that a little bit, sort of today and all the time. And yeah, that's pretty much me. I'm going to throw it to Diane because she's about to finish sipping her water. And so Diane, you're up.
Hi, Kelly. How are you? I'm Diane Fager, and like many of you, I work on a variety of issues and organizations, but I would say the most important one for me is environmental justice. And I worked on FEJA and then CJA, the two environmental laws that are really something that Illinois should be really proud of. And but frankly, I thought I really want to get more involved in Chicago. Not that CJA is not about Chicago, but you know, how we can organize. I want to be more of an organizer than a policy wonk. So I'm very happy to be here, and I look forward. Can I ask a question? Is the hearing date, is that the final hearing date? April 6th?
This is the deadline for submitting written feedback is April 4th. They did have a couple of different community meetings, which we kind of missed on letting people know about. We could, I think one of the issues to talk about is more public feedback and ongoing oversight and stuff. So we can talk about that.
Okay, thank you. I just wanted to know if this was just, you know, up till next week or if it's going to be a continuing process. Anyway, so I'm just very happy to be here, and I'll introduce Mary. Mary Driscoll.
Yeah, I'm here. I just had to unmute myself. Can everyone hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm Mary Driscoll, and I'm a board member of CWTA and CWTA Acts, and I'm co-chair of the Health Committee, and that's why I'm here, because I've been in public health for over 40 years, and I think that, you know, public health and environmental health really go hand in hand. So, and I'm co-chair of the Health Committee. So I think it's important that our two committees have some synergy, and looking forward to hear about the plan tonight and see what the Environmental Committee is going to be doing, and see how the Health Committee and the Environmental Justice Committee can work together. I pass it to Deb.
You're muted, Deb.
Sorry, I was running around too, and my dog is liable to bark. I'm the other co-chair. I'm Deb Rosenberg, and I'm also on the CWTA Acts board, and the other co-chair with Mary of the Health Committee. And Maura, I'm really glad to meet you. I'm also a biostatistician epidemiologist. Most of my career was as faculty in epibiostats at UIC School of Public Health. And really just following up on what Mary said, we obviously know that also as a women's organization, that the intersection between women's health and environmental health is really central and important. So hoping that we can do things together. Anybody who, Jackie, has Jackie introduced herself?
Not yet.
Go for it, Jackie.
Jackie Grimshaw. Yeah, as she just said, you know, as we were redoing our agenda, we felt the need to create this climate and environmental justice working group. I chair both the CWTA and CWTA Acts board. I really am interested in this conversation tonight. I focus primarily on transportation section of this board, of this climate plan. So I'm looking forward to the discussion. And let's see who hasn't gone. Ellen, did you go? All right, Ellen.
I'm Ellen Partridge. I do work on transportation policy and the intersection with environmental issues. We, at the Shared Use Mobility Center where I work, we focus on equity and sustainability. And on the climate action plan, I'm going to be advocating for more bus lanes so that buses can take people better, faster. So there you go. Who else hasn't gone?
I think that's it. I think you were the last person. Anybody else feel they need to say something else about themselves? No? Okay. All right. All right. Well, I am going to jump right in so that we do not go till 9 o'clock, which was never our plan. If people had a chance to look at the summary, great.
That's a joke, everybody. We're really only going to 7.
Yes, only till 7. I did read the entire 67-page plan at least once, maybe twice. Tried to boil it down to 3 pages for y'all, so that's the attachment that was there. Also because that's hopefully an easy summary to look at rather than trying to flip through 67 screens of information. I am not going to do more than the absolutely briefest summary now, because I think it will be more useful for us to focus on some things where there are some specific questions. The first thing, though, I do want to make sure is that people understand what we're doing here. We wanted to talk as a group about the plan and potential comments and feedback that that we will recommend that Chicago Women Take Action formally submit as an agency. Each of us and all of our families, friends, and neighbors can also submit individual comments to the plan. It can be done online, by phone, by email. The online form is actually fairly nice. If you haven't had a chance to look at it, it has all of the 5 pillars and each strategy under the pillars. There are 16 strategies. So there are 16 spaces at which you could say, for this issue, I say this, for this one, I say that. And then there's a general comment box at the very end. So that's the feedback, the outline that I will follow if and where we decide to put input. You don't have to put input in every one of those boxes when you go online. And in using a form like that, if you do use it, I recommend that you kind of type out your thoughts ahead of time in order and then cut and paste them in rather than typing in as you go, because it would make you crazy to do that. I'm just saying.
And I just want to add, though, Anne, we know that there's power in the group. So that's for folks who really want to go deep and share with your family and friends. Yay. But we want to make sure we're representing the group.
Right. There will be a group set as well. Yeah. And the only information that they ask about individuals as you put it in online is your email address and neighborhood and ward. So just again, if people are asking or want to know, how are they going to know who I am or what am I doing? That's how that works. The other thing that I wanted to mention that I was not in the summary, because there were so many, is who was involved in making this plan. As Sylvia mentioned, there were some Zoom meetings, might have been some in-person meetings, and there were a couple of surveys that were done. And there's a list of 14 or so, or no, that's page 14. Sorry, list of about 20 organizations that were involved, including Blacks and Green, Friends of the Park, Neighbor Space, the Morton Arboretum, the Illinois Environmental Council, Nature Conservancy, Elevate, the Metropolitan Planning Council, Open Lands, quite a few. And I can, and when someone else is talking, I'll copy that list and pop it into the chat so people can see it. So the overall pillars, there are 5 areas that are the overall pillars of the plan. And that is, I thought this was particularly interesting, but the first one is increasing household savings. Thinking about climate from the point of view of energy efficiency and clean energy coming into homes, particularly, I think they took this as focusing on, they wanted to focus on low and moderate income households and how it can be easy for a richer household to say, oh, I'm going to go green and I'm going to get solar panels on my house and I'm going to get some fancy appliances and then other people can't take advantage of any improvements. So there's a number of strategies under that pillar. Then the second one, again, with sort of a, rather than calling it a climate-y sound, reducing waste and creating jobs. So again, saying that the actions that we could take about climate can actually create jobs for that we need in the city. The third pillar is enabling personal mobility and improving air quality. So the transportation folks, that's where you were kind of looking. And all of these pillars, I have to say that they did what looked to me like a pretty good job of, as they were going through, connecting with all of the other city and or regional plans that are related to things. So under transportation, it aligns with the CDOT strategic plan. They also mentioned CTA's electrification, fleet electrification plan and things like that. The fourth pillar, enabling Chicago's clean energy future. That is, I think, kind of the longest and deepest strategy, and one where they are expecting that the greatest impact on greenhouse gas reduction would come. So that might be a place we want to also focus a little. And then the fifth pillar is, I thought this was, like I said, this was one of the public healthy ones, strengthening communities and protecting health. There's no direct greenhouse gas reduction, but that's where they kind of parked the collecting data and using information to inform the city's decisions. So that's the really, really high level organization of this plan. If anybody's read this and has something specific that they want to make sure we talk about, you want to raise your hand and let's do those first.
And do you want to share a screen, or do people feel they've got a copy? I see that Joyce has her hand up, but I don't know if it's helpful. I could share it on the screen if Jackie gave me permission, or if you just want to go as Ann said.
Might be helpful if we could see it.
Okay. So Jackie, if you could somehow make that possible for me, I will follow your guidance, but probably either go to the pillar people want to talk about or go in order.
Okay.
And Joyce.
Okay, yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't make any slides. I thought about it, you guys, but I just couldn't handle it.
No, we can just share screens.
Okay. Okay, Joyce, do you want to go ahead and what are you interested in to make sure?
Yeah, just a short thing. It does have 5 pillars, and then it talks about adaptation and resilience. And what's so interesting is that even in the comments, the public comment format, it doesn't even have a slot for you to give comments on the adaptation and resilience. And so even most brilliant folks like Ann, you didn't even include that in your summary because it's just absolutely a total afterthought. And the way that they organize adaptation and resilience is also completely different from how they organize other sections of the plan. And I'll put this in the chat, but like it doesn't have any, in the GHG impacts, they'll give you 3 stars and tell you how, doesn't say how many stars any one of the actions that they suggest there, or whether there's any co-benefits or who the city partners would be, or whether there's any equity, resilience, and EJ considerations. So it essentially is a complete throwaway. And that is a tragedy because climate change resilience is what is going to save lives and improve livelihoods in the face of the climate destruction that is already baked in because we haven't done a good job on decreasing greenhouse gas emissions. So I'm going to stand down from that and not say another word for the rest of our conversation. But I do believe that this is a fatal flaw of the report because of what just happened and what it is in the description. And I guess since I said I was going to stand down, one last thing I will say is that the descriptions of what they're going to do are just barely nipping at the problem. So if you are a Southsider, you know that flooding is an existential problem and you have lost so much value in your home and so much soul from having to deal with it all the time. And what they're talking about dealing with flooding is more green infrastructure. And it's great. Green infrastructure is great, but the Department of Water Management is absolutely derelict in their duty around infrastructure. And so utility improvements, especially to help heavily flooded communities, which is not just code, but frankly, the south side of Chicago, it has to be in here. And the water management department needs to be held accountable. So I can put that in the chat if that would be helpful. Thanks so much.
No, well, I appreciate that because I actually, my notes, I was going to bring that up a little bit later, but you're right. It doesn't show up in the highest level, the shortest summary because it isn't a pillar. My notes about that said this section reads oddly. It is it's got a lot of sort of blah, 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 beautiful language and some things that sound good, but then there's some steps and they say they're going to have community-led plans, but there's no detail about what that means and how that's going to happen. They talk about engaging a network of relevant local stakeholders to contextualize unique needs and assets. And I was like, what does that mean? I'm a planner, I write stuff like that, but that doesn't mean anything. I don't know if you know, and actually Joyce, this is a question for you because I don't know this. I'm sorry, Diane, a question for you is, wait, people are moving around on my screen, yes. It does say that that this links to the Resilient Chicago plan. And Joyce, I'm wondering if the Resilient Chicago plan, do you think that addresses some of those things and that's why it isn't repeated here?
Yeah, it may, but honestly, this is like the flagship thing for Mayor Lightfoot, and it's kind of asking a lot for readers to go somewhere else. So if they think that Resilient Chicago is worth anything, and it wasn't a manual product, and who knows, I mean, I can't tell you that it's awesome or not, but maybe they should repeat some of that, because there's certainly a lot of planning from other plans that's in here repeated from other places. So why wouldn't they do the same for adaptation, I guess? But you're right, they did say that, and they also linked to the Metropolitan Planning Council or some other group's resilience work, which is, it's fantastic. Like, it's all about partnership, but let's not let the city off the hook for the work that they need to do as well.
Okay. Diane, did you have a comment about this strategy or this area?
No.
Okay, let me, anybody else, does anybody else want to weigh in on this particular area? Judith, was that what you were going to weigh in on? You're on mute.
I had a quick question. I don't know if it relates to this specific section, but I didn't see a specific mention. They mentioned data, but I think they have to specifically say that the data is transparent and communities have access to the data. I mean, they talk about community planning, but community actions need the data. So I don't know where that fits, but that was one of the things I thought was missing.
Can I ask which pillar you guys want to point me to, and if you can see the screen?
I can see the screen. Pillar 5 has the access to data. It has collecting data and enabling data-driven decision-making. So I could make a note there. I think that's a great point. The city has certainly done a better job about with the data portal and a couple of other things, places having data out there, but really continuing to make it more accessible would be great.
And the water and the flooding on the south side, do I need to go to any special pillar there, or do you feel like you have enough for the notes?
Well, I think as Judy was, I'm sorry, it's
Joyce.
As Joyce said, sorry, that there isn't really a strategy related to that was in the, that was kind of at the end in a separate section on adaptation and resilience. So that will go into the, that would go into general comments that there should be stronger commitment to that. And if Joyce, if you want to think about whether it fits under another pillar, or other, and either throw that out in a couple minutes or send me a note later, we can think about that. I'm not sure. I feel the same way, sort of. Maybe it makes sense actually to link that to one of the other sort of backgrounding issues in this plan, which I think is something that we should, as an organization, make a comment on. Is this is not a part of a pillar, Sylvia. I'm sorry, I started with, we're going right away from the pillars. In the introduction of the plan on page 6, the plan says that the city will explore the establishment of a community-led climate advisory board and a forum for regular community participation in actions related to CAP implementation, reporting, there we go, reporting, and achievement. And I said, well, that's great. Where's the details about how that's going to happen? They're exploring the establishment. Really? Are you going to establish one? And that there should be an action plan, details and action plan. And this is something, and again, kind of parallel with focusing on the appropriate parts of the city and making those community-led plans and relevant local stakeholders, like all of that is a ball. Do people think that makes sense? Is that somewhere a place that we should be
Adding it.
pushing for
Yeah,
clarity.
this is Mary. I think that that's critical, that part about establishing the community council, and that community council has to be spelled out what powers that community council will be given.
Okay.
Because that is where the monitoring of the plan, the fulfillment of the plan, the details of the plan, et cetera, hopefully will, be taking place in conjunction with the department and other city department partners and that council. So I think that that's a critical piece that definitely needs to be strengthened.
Okay. All right. Any other comments or thoughts before we move on
And
to?
there's 2 hands raised. I don't know if you can see it, but I just get a little notice, so maybe they can unmute.
Yeah, are those if your comments related to this, to talking about community input and activity, you jump on it.
Diane has her hand up.
I know.
Yes, I have to admit, I just started reading this, so I'm not exactly an expert, but in just the review I've done, I'd say if I had to say one word in summary is that I'm very, very underwhelmed. And I say that because I think the language is great. The definitions are great. I mean, they really capture, where things need to go. Politically, I think there's a lot of good stuff here. But when you start looking at some of these numbers, like 5 roofs of libraries, and I mean, the whole thing, it's, when we know that the time frame on trying to stay in a place where this earth is not literally melting or burning up, I have to say I'm not real excited, and I don't know if other people have this reaction. I mean, I have to admit I haven't studied other cities, and I think in general cities are bad, but also, I just feel like in some ways, this is sort of classic Lightfoot, where since she did not support a lot of progressive or any innovative revenue streams, then you just have to work with what you got. And I don't know what the thinking was in terms of raising revenue or priorities, or and in terms of the big scale of things. Is this mainly coming from the Recovery Act? Is this mainly coming from the infrastructure bill? I mean, the cities are going to be getting huge amounts of money. And so again, is there anybody who knows about the discussions on funding?
Yeah, oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, even though there's a battle now about funding the equity portions of CJA, I wanted to see if there was a way to synthesize what you're saying without more debate. Or would you like it to be more aspirational?
Oh, yeah.
And have a greater impact, and then more clarity on funding sources and leveraging, the funds that are going to come.
Sylvia, you stated my position perfectly. Seriously.
Okay.
I did that.
And it's a good position.
And my comment, like Lightfoot, I'm not even assuming everybody agrees, but that's just how I think. And I think we're really in an emergency. And
We are.
This
That's
budget and these goals do not reflect that. And so where are the funding streams? They need to be stronger. They need to be broader within the context of the realistic timelines that we are facing in terms of, we're in a climate somewhere between crisis and catastrophe.
Well, and I will say that I did somewhat, they do have a larger financing and delivery capacity section, which I only summarized by the amounts of funding that are shown in the summary that I wrote, that shows the Chicago Recovery Plan money. So that's the American Recovery Plan money. So that's a total of $188 million. And I went through and kind of put it where it seemed to relate to the appropriate strategy. because they hadn't done that yet. And they do mention state and local funding that should be funding a lot of this stuff, but there's no specifics. And whether, I think it's a good idea that we should be pointing that out, saying, let's just not make us wait till budget time to wonder what you're going to put where. But there should, if there's some commitment to, I think as you both said, what kinds of funding should go where, and what the volume is. I mean, those are important questions, and people aren't going to know that off the top of their heads, so.
I mean, one thing we can specifically reference is, and again, I don't know what the deadlines are all on this, but when Build Back Better did not get passed, what they tried to do is to reframe a lot of the infrastructure funding to meet some of these goals. And it is a huge amount of money. And the way they're setting up that funding is it's basically that cities and states will write proposals to the federal government on how they're going to spend it. And there was also latitude in terms of the Recovery Act. And as we know, that Lightfoot put a lot of money into, I think, owed overtime for the police. And there was a lot of criticism about that. And I mean, we shouldn't get into.
And you all, I think we should try this, some of this leans into other committees, and it's very helpful information, because we could all get started on the things that Lori could do better. I just guide us to continuing to try to direct some specifics to what we can recommend here. And I think that you've articulated really important things about leveraging money, identifying money, transparency, aspiration, and being more transformational.
Right.
So
And to wind up, I say these things within the context of this committee, I would never write it this way, but the reason I mention the funding streams is that if you don't mention the funding streams, you don't get any funding.
Yeah.
And so either more money has to come out of those areas, or we live with what we have and what will come from the state right now, except for what's coming out of the infrastructure federal funds. There is none. The bill didn't get passed. So
Okay.
I agree with your statement, how you summarized it.
Thank you. All right, Ellen, do you want to jump in on the strategies you're interested in?
Yeah, transportation is the largest source of greenhouse gas emissions. So do more about transportation. And what is in this plan is just not, it's just a little bit added on. But with all of this money coming from the infrastructure bill, the Infrastructure Act, there's just so much that could be done. And what the state looks like it's doing is building more highway lanes. Every time we build more highway lanes, we get more traffic, and then ultimately we have more congestion. So we really do need to think about a transformational way for moving people around, both for equity, for greenhouse gas emissions, for just sort of like how our communities live. I mean, the other part of transportation is that the people who have the least money spend the largest part of their household budget on transportation. So I think there's just like way too little about transportation in this climate plan. So we need to think about the things that we can do to really encourage walking and biking and using scooters, which I don't do. It's just the focus instead is more about electrification, which is important, but it's not the whole ball game, because we still have electricity that's made from coal. We still have incentives for people to buy electric vehicles that apply to people who can afford to buy new vehicles. So a lot more that we need to do about making transit work better. So dedicated bus lanes is just like one of the things that could make the most difference and at the least cost. So that's a thing that I would emphasize as something that, really, let's just get something on the books that we can actually do.
Okay, and so in the transit section, there is information, there's on strategy for investing in infrastructure policies and programs that enable walking, biking, or transit as viable options. So that's there as a strategy, but you want more specifics about transit, I mean, one of the options, one of the things that was come up through the active transportation was association was setting a mileage goal for a number of bus lanes. I mean, is that the kind of thing? And is
Right.
there,
Yeah, just spend more money on active transportation, more money on transit, and with all of this infrastructure funding to not let it be used for widening roads.
okay, well, so we had, there is not a strategy in here about widening roads. There's a strategy here about increasing access. There isn't, I don't think there is a thing about adding bus lanes. So would we want to recommend that? Is that what you're saying? I mean, again, they're talking about increasing divvy trips, increasing the bike network. So that's a strategy to push hard, or
Spend more money on active transportation and have dedicated bus lanes. Those are two really concrete things that I would recommend.
okay. And so do we do that as
and those things are mentioned, but what is not mentioned is the specifics on bus lanes, like how many miles of bus lanes, things
Right.
of that sort. The same thing with protected bike lanes. So, it's mentioned, but not very much in terms of details about
right? So
how
do we
much,
want
how
to,
you measure it and the quantity.
right? So do we want to recommend, or do we want to sync up with active transportation? And what they said was that there should be a mileage goal for bus lanes by 2030, and that there should be an ambitious, it says ambitious mileage goal for concrete protected bike lanes, and specifically concrete protected, as well as upgrading the not very well made bike lanes that exist now. So we can, I mean, I thought that made sense, making those more specific. Because one of the things too that they asked about was whether we think the deadlines are sense. I looked at some of the increasing non-single vehicle trips. The deadline they had was 2040, and I was like, well, that would be 18 years from now. And that seemed like an awfully long time to wait.
For anything.
For anything, but for some things. Okay. Okay, Kelly, do you want to hop in?
Yeah, I wasn't sure whether, I mean, I know that I had spoken to you via email about the stuff that we're working on and how it plays into that, but I'm wondering in terms of a reaction to the actual climate plan, is there a place to make comment on some of the things that would help policy-wise to get to the goals, or is that at the implementation of the climate plan portion of the process? What is your perception on that, just out of curiosity?
Well, I mean, I think there's an opportunity to give input now.
Okay.
Whether it's related to a specific strategy or whether it goes kind of more generally, there's two places to add information.
Sure. Well, when I got the email back from you about the electric vehicle stuff that we're working on, one of the things that the gentleman, Brian Orishevsky, who deals with our policy stuff, was telling me that a big reason that our coalition is working on the advanced clean truck rule and the MOU, which admittedly the MOU doesn't really have much teeth. The MOU is the memorandum of understanding that a lot of states are putting together about a certain requirement for buying electric vehicles to replace heavy duty freight vehicles that are overly polluting, right? But a big point of getting the MOU adopted, it was passed in legislature last year, is to get that advanced clean truck rule in place, because that advanced clean truck rule has more to do with the types of vehicles that are sold in Illinois and can make a greater impact on the reduction of greenhouse gases than just kind of setting arbitrary sort of rulings about we should buy more electric trucks, we should electrify our fleet. Sorry, that's hard to say.
I know.
So the idea that we are thinking about in terms of the advanced clean trucks rule, as Brian sent to me, he said by 2035, the zero emission truck sales need to be 55% of the class 2B3 truck sales. It's like, it's got all of the outlines to help hit those goals. And so part of the, what like our coalition is trying to do, and what I've been talking to Chicago Women Take Action about trying to do, is the idea of pushing for that policy goal as part of the climate action plan, because it does give us concrete metrics to change over the fleet into a way that does more of a concrete impact. And said, so what, I'm sorry, I'm getting off the topic, but my brain is like all over the place when I read things like this, because it reminds me of every pie in the sky grant proposal I've ever written about the dreamy language about how things should work and the community meetings that are going to happen and all this and that. And I hate to be so bitter and jaded, but coming off of that general iron fight on the Southeast side, I just feel like it's a great talk. It's a great talking point, but I really want to make sure there's teeth in it. So I feel like part of what the coalition that we're working in and groups like Chicago Women Take Action to is comment that, you know, we can lean on policies like the Advanced Clean Truck Rule and the Memorandum of Understanding for electric vehicles to set concrete goals to actually reduce our greenhouse gas emissions. Sorry, that was a lot of verbal.
Well, and Kelly, I want to make space for others to talk about this, but just a little bit of context. You brought to our committee a little bit about the MOU and a great one-pager describing what your coalition is trying to do. We didn't feel ready or prepared to endorse or move forward, and happy with any recommendations that you can make here. And, lean on people like Jackie, who is Miss Transportation, to weigh in. I didn't say in my introduction, I work with Elevate, and our policy people didn't necessarily say it was the next CJA. And I never got like clear understanding about any possible unintended consequences. So I admire your advocacy, and this is the place to tell us specifically recommendations that we can add under the correct pillars. And then we also hope to have a future meeting where we can go in greater detail in reference to Chicago Women Take Action, specifically endorsing your efforts. So just giving all of that by way of context.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because I'm not sure what everybody is knowing coming into this meeting. But if it's helpful to have that like concrete language, I can copy and paste that about the actual goals of the act, if that's helpful to put under the pillar of electric vehicle procurement and things like that. If that's helpful, and I don't know if it is or not, but if you want me to, I can, or I can send it to you in an email if it's more helpful.
Or let people talk about it here. I mean, I think if there's a way to put it in the chat, then people can weigh in.
Yeah, let me stick what I have in the chat so that people can read it and absorb it. And I know I'm a visual learner, and it helps to not hear words but see them. So I will do that, and then people can reflect and put input on that too. So hang on 1 minute.
Kelly, what is your coalition that you're referring to?
RHA has been given some funding with Alvejo and Warehouse Workers for Justice to work on the implementation of this MOU and the Advanced Clean Truck Rule within the state of Illinois. And we're trying to gather a coalition of people who are stakeholders in this and who are impacted or want to work on heavy duty freight transportation. There's also a ton of equity implications that are involved in this as well. So it's got a ton of different facets, and I don't want to take up so much space in this meeting to talk about it, but I'm always happy to talk about anything in a space that you all designate as a place where you want to talk about it. But it's basically, we're working on heavy duty freight, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, and the health implications of pollution. So that's basically it, but I can do that another time, but I will drop the rest of the info in the chat.
But those are very good organizations who really know what they're talking about on this subject.
I do have a couple of specific questions I want to bring up on a couple of strategies. Actually, on the transit, on pillar 3, on sort of all of the transit strategies, there is and they're talking about increasing pillar 3 strategy 1. Oh, thank you, Sylvia. She's right there. Increasing CTA frequency and reliability and speed. There is a they use the word accessibility, but there's, the specifics are few, and accessibility seems to be just referenced as accessible sidewalks. And I thought, well, that's not the only thing you got to get over when when you are mobility restricted and you're trying to use transit. So I wanted to see if it made sense that we mentioned something about that accessible transit is not just, I can use a sidewalk ramp, but that also I can use buses. I can get I have an option with the elevators will work all the time on more often on the darn CTA platforms. I wouldn't say it like that.
Yeah, no, well, actually, I think the accessibility that they're mentioning is people living close to transit. And that's why the development was part of this. So we have a lot of vacant land. And we also have a lot of zoning that restricts the ability to have multifamily dwellings near transit. And also our zoning ordinance allows for a lot of driveways. So you can have a gas station right next to a transit station. And I think the zoning reforms that are in there get at that accessibility, rather than whether or not you can ride an elevator is not going to do very much with greenhouse gas emissions, but eliminating or changing the zoning will. So, it's a matter of what accessibility means, and in terms of reducing greenhouse gases.
Well, and that's certainly, I mean, at least in the way they lay it out, this entire pillar supposedly only has a 2% impact on the amount of greenhouse gas reduction that the city's talking about, which was sort of strange to me, that then they have this very it's kind of unbalanced in that.
Yeah, well, what will get us more reduction, and then that's what Ellen started to talk about before, and that is to have bus lanes that allow buses to, the reason why people don't like to take transit is that it's too slow, right? So if you speed up transit by having, bus lanes, then you get more people that says, hey, I can get downtown faster on the bus than I can in a car. So let me leave the car home and let me get on the bus that has this dedicated lane that will get me through traffic, and I can get downtown a lot faster. So where they had the opportunity to increase, they didn't emphasize it enough, like Ellen said. And the same thing with having people feel comfortable on a bike because they're protected bike lanes. So yeah, I only have 2 miles to go to get to work, but the traffic is going 65 miles an hour. There's no way I'm gonna get on the bike. But if I have a protected bike lane, then I will take the bike. So they had the opportunity to increase, except they just didn't make the specificity that says that, yeah, we can really reduce, greenhouse gas emissions by having these strategies in place.
Okay.
That sounds really good.
Yeah, I agree. I'm hearing increased dedicated bus lanes, increased dedicated bike lanes. And then within those dedicated bus lanes, we are hoping that it's accessible also for people with disabilities. But that seems like a good suggestion. I'm going to take a second if I can. I'm sorry, I don't see other hands raised, but is this a place to talk at all about there are people who left CTA because of shared rides and, which is still in cars. Do we want to say anything about incentives to use the bus over and disincentives for using car share services, or not touch that? I just remember that was, Rom had made deals with people. So
yeah, no, they mentioned that as an action, but the question that they raised, and I don't know the answer to this, Ellen, you're an attorney, you might be able to do better, was whether or not they can do anything other than talk to the ride hail groups. They can't mandate Lyft and Uber to do electric vehicles, those kinds of things. But, the question is, what is their ability legally that they can do? Now, incentives is another thing, right? And I think, and incentives to convince drivers to go electric, and even cab drivers to go electric, is something that is not in here that could easily be in here. So like incentives, like right now it's, there's all kinds of fees attached to being a Uber and Lyft driver. But, if you could incentivize that by eliminating those fees, I mean, so things like that is a possibility, but, it's not here. I don't know. Ellen, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, no, I think the city can do a lot by talking to Uber and Lyft. They have various kinds of electrification programs around the country where people can lease the vehicles if they can't afford to buy electric vehicles. So that certainly is one thing they could do. On shared rides, the city is already in the forefront by having a different tax rate for pooled rides versus single rides. But with the pandemic, nobody was wanting shared rides. The other, Chicago is also very good at having data from Uber and Lyft, which shows, for example, that there are many, many more pooled rides that were taken in the from the south side and the west side than in the rest of the city. So people want to take those rides that are cheaper. So can sort of like continuing those kinds of incentives for pooled rides is something they can do, and talk to the city about, or talk to the companies about electrifying.
One thing that was mentioned, I think, by Jackie, that I think it'd be great if we could elaborate on, which is, we have this incredible CTA, and, right now the ridership is quite low because of COVID, but it's also because it's slow and blah, blah, blah. And so what are the things we feel that will increase the use of people using the L?
The L, well, one of the things that is in the, as a strategy, is to make transit ridership more affordable. And that's something that can be done, that the city can use, some of this infrastructure money or COVID money that's coming from the feds.
Right.
And probably even, I'm not sure of all of the possibilities on the CJA, but to use those to subsidize rides for, there's a whole equity lens here. So for low income and people of color, to subsidize those rides in a variety of ways, either, reducing the cost of venture cards, making different kinds of fare policy, so that it is more affordable for people who are lower income. I think Ellen started us off with talking about people who can't afford some of these strategies. And so that's one of the things I think we should add to this, is more affordability.
Right.
I've got reduced rates, fare policies, making rides more affordable. For some people, there's safety, and Jackie started us off with just the reliability and getting somewhere on time. I've been holding on.
Currently a big issue, safety and the lack of security on these vehicles.
Yeah. I mean, and is that something that we want to give a nod to, or because it does impact people's ability to use it and willingness to use it.
Yeah, it's an issue.
Mm-hmm.
More people that you get on transit, then the safer it is.
It's true.
Yeah, exactly.
So do our policies to get more people on. I like that logic. The more people that are on, the safer, and incentivizing to allow more people to be able to afford it in these dedicated lanes would be helpful. I just want to take a minute. It's 7. We've had really robust conversation on transportation. If there's any other area that you want me to move to, let me know. If there's more on transportation, I definitely don't want to stop that. But you give me direction on where you want me to go under pillars and strategies.
Can I add one more on transportation?
Please.
I think if we looked at the CJA legislation, which I'm sure you have, Sylvia, Elevate, there is a section on basically EV transportation for all. And it's a way to give subsidies for people who are lower income in terms of buying a electric car, but also buying even a secondhand, because pretty soon some of that stuff is going to start getting more inexpensive. And there's certain qualifiers that are too arcane to get in right now, but maybe we should look at pulling some of that from CJA.
And
Because-
one way, potentially just saying we could wordsmith this,
Okay.
but I think it goes across pillars, aligning with state and federal legislation. And right now, CJA is the top one in the country, but aligning with our goals, our timelines, and our funding with state and federal legislation that will help us reach our goals.
And how about we get and we will add to that pool of accessible funding is some city revenue.
Ooh, I like that.
Okay, so noted.
Can I ask one more last question? This is not on transportation.
Okay.
I was just wondering, I didn't read this. So is there a section where they talk about changing the building codes and the zoning language so that when a developer is trying to get a permit for an area, let's say in South Chicago or many of the frontline communities, right now, as you know, that they can just look at this one isolated project in terms of how that's going to impact the neighborhood in terms of pollution. What we really need, which is in the state of New Jersey, they have, which is the compounded impact of pollution. And right now there's state legislation being passed. I don't know what will happen, but if we could look at some of the specifics, because we know that Chicago's, notoriously, has not been great on some of the zoning issues. So that's one point. And the second is long-term. One thing I would love to see is that if you look at community solar, one thing we could think about, and this is a zoning issue too, is looking at all the abandoned lots throughout the city, especially in low-income communities. And in reality, since a lot of them are contiguous, you could make them into big community solar areas so that people will get jobs from creating it, maintaining it. And a lot of renters will be able to access it, preferably in a co-op form, but at least access it. So that's something that I think would be great.
And I know we've talked with some folks in Inglewood and other places. I'm wondering where to put it because it aligns with, maybe it's in this clean energy future, but it aligns with leveraging what's already happening.
Right.
We do need some city support because ILSFA, the Illinois Solar for All, feels complicated and hard to access, even though we're administrators at Elevate.
Right.
And to your first question, I feel like out of all, a strange source, but Attorney General Kwame Raoul was weighing in on like permitting and being able to whistleblow and trying to add more teeth to people going to the, to blow the whistle. So I don't really know enough to say more, but there is a little bit of action around the permitting area.
Okay. Yeah, there's right now they're going to vote on legislation, which was really strong in the veto session. It didn't get passed. It's a little weaker now, but it's by the EG caucus and the Clean Jobs Coalition, and anything that the city could add to enhance whatever is going to be in that state law. But since we have no time, just any kind of zoning, one of the lenses should be regarding whether, in what way does the permitting and the zoning relate to not just the impact, the pollution impact of one individual project that they're trying to get, a permit for, but how that compounds with the existing pollution in that community.
And that could go under 4 and 5. I like it because pollution travels. Maura, Phyllis, anybody that you have anything that you want to jump in with on any of these pillars or what you've heard so far?
No, I don't think so. I think I really appreciated the conversation about accessibility and because the more people are able to have access and people who have disabilities, I think that that's really critical, and how our streets and sidewalks are designed to enable that to happen, I think is good. But again, I have not had a chance to really study this and think about this from the perspective of my own expertise, and I will spend some more time with this. So I appreciate it. I'm learning as you go along. So thank you.
Thank you. That's one of our committee goals, is just to people commit to learn is an important step. Maura, we want to make space for you and give a plug on the April. Now I'm blanking on if it's the 4th or not. We've got the Illinois Environmental Council leadership. Jen Walling, who was very involved in some of the legislation that has been mentioned, will be our guest speaker at our general meeting. So please come back.
April 4th. April 4th. Write it down. April 4th.
Yeah. But just making space for you, no pressure, but if there's anything you want to add, and then I toss it back to Anne.
Yeah, no, thank you. I just want to reiterate the discussion about taking the L in public transportation. It resonated with me. I definitely don't take the L because it's kind of sketchy where I live. And there's often like people smoking on it. So that's a big deterrent for me. Mm-hmm. But one thing I'm not nearly as knowledgeable as any of you, but one thing I think about a lot about kind of climate change is food sources. And I'm not sure if there's like any place in this for recommendations about I don't know if the city has any kind of impact on food sources in the city, but I don't know if anyone could think of how that was related to kind of.
Did you say food sources?
Yeah, so meat is a big producer of greenhouse gases, and land use. So decreasing meat is a positive way to impact or, decrease greenhouse gases. So that's just one thought I had. I don't know if it pertains.
There are a number of urban farms around the city. And, part of Auburn Gresham's Pritzker Prize was to have a huge urban farm going on the southwest side. So that's something that you're right would make a big difference. Well, I'm not sure how big a difference it would make, because you got to get people off meat and to eating plant-based foods, but it does contribute to reducing the overall heat islands that we have. So that's a direct climate impact from just providing more greenery and more ability for greenery to eat up carbon dioxide. So
and local food instead of moving it.
Yeah. Oh, Sylvia and I are saying decreasing the distance that the food goes. So we could add a general note at the end about hey, there's no attention paid to encouraging and increasing the production of local food and and food that is less resource intensive, and just kind of throw it out there. We don't have to come up with a specific action.
Decreasing this distance between the farm and to the table, and there's probably lots of under this sort of strengthening health, there's health implications. We could say more like farms on open spaces and modeling, watching and growing more initiatives like the Auburn Gresham efforts.
Yeah, great, thanks.
Thank you, Laura.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, well, I have to say we could keep going for another couple hours, but I don't think we're going to. I believe we hit a lot of the high points that I was thinking of. Oh, I know there's one under pillar 2 that I did want to just sort of throw out and have people can react to a little bit. In terms of diverting waste from the municipal stream, one of the actions talks about decreasing kind of what comes in and what's sold as overpackaged. And I think that that really dovetails with our goals. It's not just that people need to have a better, easier way to recycle, or they need to have a way to place to put your compost. We need that, but stopping the amount of stuff that has to go into recycle in the first place and reducing is the first R, kind of the stopping that from happening. And to the extent that that action helps push towards that sort of activity, I think that was that's an area that dovetails with our goals. We would want to point that out and encourage that.
Yeah, and can I also just add one other thought to that? And it's something that we've been putting in our messaging. Individual actions can go so far, but we really need systematic structural changes. So I think that's a good one to do, because reducing the need to divert waste at the source by packaging and by industrial and business entities. I can't wordsmith it now, but I think that's an example, of where it's more than the individual's effort. We need people to not give us the stuff layered in 5 different packages in the beginning.
Right.
Amen.
I like that.
Okay. All right. Well,
you guys are the best.
We'll say this is, I've been looking forward to this for a while, and here we are. We're done. Well, sort of done. Now I get to do the fun part of kind of taking your thoughts and ideas. The plan now is that I will, as I say, work this up into the sort of needed format, run it by certainly my co-chair. If anybody else wants to take a look before it goes, well, no, let's not go too far, because we don't have a lot of days. We'll pull it together. Then this will get forwarded to the board to take a look at and make sure that they're comfortable with the kinds of things that we might, as an organization, provide input on this plan, and whether we would go any further and say, hey, we put input on this plan. Everybody know about that. I don't know.
Oh, we want everybody to know. Diane has her hand raised, I think, or is that from before?
That's from before, but I did put something in the chat, which is, we could suggest that this is stage 1, the process, which is how it occurs in state law, is that first plans are submitted to the Illinois Power Authority, and comments like ours come in. Then they respond, they put a draft out. Then again, there's comments, and then that becomes the plan they send to the ICC. So I think we could suggest that they do something like that on the city level. I mean, the precedent is there for energy legislation on the state level. And I just think if they're really serious about buy-in from, lots of organizations, that's really how you do it.
Okay. Suggesting another step in the review process. I think that's a great idea, because they're going to get a lot of feedback on this plan. I think it was a good start, but there's a lot to change and work on. And they ask for input on anything, so we can give them input on their process. Why not?
Yeah, I wrote it in the chat.
Okay, great. I copied the chat out too, so I can see that stuff.
And Kelly, we've got your notes. This is a great place to have that input. We'll circle back for a future committee meeting and really, try to get more understanding. I'm doing all of this with CWTA, but I'm actually on medical leave because I had a new knee. I'm back in the office April 11th. So I'll see what else I can learn. But thank you everyone for coming. Don't be a stranger to these meetings. And we've got other committees here that are our sister committees. If you want to give a plug for your next meeting, you have 30 seconds to do it. April 4th then.
All right, I was just gonna say April 4th,
Yeah,
our general meeting, Jen Walling. So we'll have some more climate, environmental justice talk then. So, so come back, stay tuned, and continue to join with us.
And Maura, can you send us your email? Because we enjoyed having you.
Sure, yeah, I'll put it in the chat right now.
Yeah, I want you to come to another meeting.
I definitely will. Thank you so much.
And I want to
Thanks, everyone.
I want to thank the chairs who did such a great job.
Oh, Anne did it all, but
Excellent.
thank you.
Thank you.
I did not. I had help.
Great meeting. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I know.
Bye,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks so much.
Bye.